Okay, this is part 2 of my review of episode 1 of season 1 of HBO's Rome. The episode is called The Stolen Eagle. It falls into my geek review category, which is the positive 1 out of 2, and these are, once again, bitch and geek reviews. So here we take off from about 14 minutes into the episode onwards. The stuff before that I discussed in my previous Rome video, The Stolen Eagle Part 1. If you're interested, check it out. Okay, I want to start off with the matter of this raspy-voiced old guy in the Senate scene at about 14:00. I mentioned last time that I neither know if the person is fictional nor if his affliction was for real. So now I want to say thank you and a big shout out to one of my favorite pages on Facebook called The Romans. The guys there made a post with info on particularly this vocal cords guy, explaining who he was historically and who the actor is. So the character is that of Publius Servilius Atia Isoricus, if that's how it's pronounced, who holds the title of Princeps Senatus, who is basically the Senate boss, like the one who determines the where, when, how, and why of it all. He was born in 122 BC, died 44 BC, and the actor's name is John Boswell. Okay, good to know. Moving on, I want to mention how well they chose the actors once again, John Boswell included. The spotlight, however, this time goes to Cato, although I think the actor looks a little bit too old, like at least 60, and I think Cato wasn't over 50 at the time. So this bitching detail aside, Cato was portrayed really well. We see him in his kind of confident honesty state, his kind of big mouth trying to sink Caesar down, warning the Senate that he lusts after a crown and all. One question though, why is he wearing a black toga? Is it because he's mourning or something? I remember reading somewhere that dark togas meant lower class citizen, but I don't think this goes for Cato. Interesting bit, I gotta hit Google. So, epic battle we see here. Cato and Pompey get at each other's throats when Cato calls for a treason trial on Caesar. And we get a glimpse of sneaky, bitchy Cicero with his witty remark on how it is, quote, Pompey's soldiers who rule in Rome, and not they, fine noblemen. Same thing to mention here, the actor for Cicero is totally awesome, especially his way of talking. It kind of gives away his traits before you're even properly introduced to the character. You know he's gonna be a sneaky and subtle trickster by the way in which the words of irony come rolling out of his mouth like honey. We also witness some of his abilities as an orator, which is the thing that made his name float in remembrance for the next 2 millennia. Impressive personality, impressive actor, for, of course, an impressive show. Then I like the fact that we see how ridiculous the whole Senate sphere actually is. To me at least, I mean. These are supposed to be the wisest and highest standing people, the leaders of Rome. And there they are just throwing ironic insults around at each other like some sort of educated children. Now that I think about it, it's pretty much the same in nowadays politics. But that doesn't stop my mentioning of it being fucking stupid. But back to antiquity. So here we are, 18 minutes into the episode. We get to see a realistic view of theater as it was in ancient Rome. Which means music, nudity, sex, and fun. Kind of like lower class entertainment. Which would explain why actors were considered indecent in those days. Cornelia, the gal that Pompey is gonna marry later in the show, remarks on her presence as being inappropriate because there's a naked woman up on stage, and she wants to leave that lower class Luna Park for filthy plebeians. So Cato comes by to lure Pompey into betraying Caesar, And Pompey says he has but to stamp his foot, and all Italy will join him in crushing Caesar. And we all know how that turns out. I totally like this moment. Us viewers and history geeks, knowing what's gonna happen eventually, get to observe the false hopes and blind moves of the characters, as if you're watching an ant farm version of ancient Pompeii, and it's everyday life next to kind of the slightly rumbling guts of Mount Vesuvius nearing eruption. Hearing how confident Pompey Magnus is in the face of his nearing annihilation is one of those dramatic moments that make me get the geek shivers. Then in the following scene, we get to see a sweet young Octavian getting a little scared of his journey to Gaul. But Mama Atia sends him off with a kiss, warning the slaves that if they don't keep her son safe, she'll use the eyes of their children for beads. This was freaking hilarious. Normally people would kind of gape at this in shock or disgust against Atia. But as for me, I got that weird and sick Cards Against Humanity humor that makes me adore moments such as this one. And human history, if not anything else, it's harsh, to put it mildly. So I don't mind depicted brutality in popular entertainment. And let's be honest, she only said it, but knowing the HBO Atia, I think she totally meant it. She'd wear the fuck out of those slave children eye beads. And then we see Pompey finally turning against Caesar. Because as he said, glory, army, riches, power, and now the beautiful expensive horse. Must Caesar have everything? I mean, the expensive horse was the last straw. I mean, must have been the best fucking horse in the country. So the two birds that he's gonna kill with one stone, what was he referring to? The ego and the horse, or killing Octavian or something? Because no one told Pompey Octavian was gonna deliver the horse himself. I don't know, it got me a little confused. Then the eagle got stolen by weird blue guys. But what were those? Some kind of gold or something? Or was the blue thing just for disguise? I don't know, if someone's clear on this, you can put it down in the comments, because I'm really curious. So Pulo decides to create some ancient art. I think it's totally awesome how during school history classes and basically everywhere around you, you hear words like ancient, classic, Roman, Greek, and you immediately picture these wise and profound people of old that were so fucking sophisticated and high-mannered and pompous and iconic for civilization those 2 millennia ago. And then you take a peek at something like HBO's Rome and you see a soldier drawing a dick, just like the ones you see today over walls and buildings and even used textbooks at school. It's a total reality slap moment, and I absolutely love it. Brutus comes to visit Caesar at camp. I just can't help myself again. I gotta mention how amazing the set is. I mean, Brutus himself says it. Caesar's camp is like a proper house. Just such a beautiful recreation, really gets you hooked up on the story. Then we get a really nice scene between Caesar, Brutus, and Mark Antony. I'm doing this review kind of piece by piece over days whenever I have the time, so I don't remember. I don't remember whether we got an introduction scene for Mark Antony or not, but I think at this point we still haven't. So I'll take it. This is where we officially meet him, and I gotta say I loved it. Although I don't picture the real Mark Antony like that, I'll say James Purefoy is just perfect for the role. He totally fits the arrogant manners and features with what I would imagine Antony's character traits would be. I watched a lecture, or rather a long interview, I'd say, by that history scholar, the guy that HBO consulted for historical accuracy when they filled Rome. Yeah, his name is Jonathan Stamp. Yeah, he's totally awesome. He himself said in that interview that James Purefoy is kinda too pretty to fit Antony's supposed appearance of a brute, but he still does deliver the kind of vulgar and overly confident arrogance that he possessed. Well, most probably. And as I said before, historical fiction does not necessarily have to be 100% accurate. I mean, that's why it's called fiction. It's not supposed to recreate the exact same events and appearances, but instead it's supposed to bring back to life that atmosphere, those manners and values that shaped people's way of thinking back then, their actions, and overall historical destiny. It may not be the same appearance and event-wise, but it's the same in its overall atmosphere and essence. So yeah, Mark Antony's introduction and depiction throughout the whole show was, I'd say, spot on. Brutus does not know how Caesar tolerates this man, and that is one hell of a premonition line for the conflicts to come. Then before the attack on Octavian's party, we got a little glimpse of a realistically really great character when the slave with the children eye beads tries to wake him up, kinda shaking him by the shoulder. Master Octavian is displeased with his slave taking the liberty to touch him. I love these moments. Like in the beginning, you start to like Octavian. You take him for a young person that's very intelligent for his age, unlike so many others. You generally consider him a good person, and then Roman reality strikes again. Don't touch me without permission, you dirty slave. And then he gets captured by the grinning brigand with gold teeth. Is Octavian gonna die? Is the future Emperor Augustus gonna die? Suspense. then because Lucius Vorenus has a brain, says Antony, he's gonna go and find the missing eagle. Crucifying orders given, bribe money provided, and off goes Vorenus. We get some Jesus action, and the tortured guy speaks. Oh yeah, so the blue guys that stole the eagle were apparently blue Spaniards. So what are those? I really gotta Google out some info. So, fortune pisses on Vorenus, as he says, and once he's got his information, he orders the tortured guys taken down again, which that Roman soldier is not so happy about. Could you imagine making a wooden cross like that, pinning a person onto it, and then getting it up? And then literally 2 minutes later, you gotta take it all down again. Poor soldier. Then we see that Pulo sucks at praying, but it helps him nonetheless, because he gets out of his cell and is saved from his damnation at the arena, at the cost of him having to put up with Vorenus while they search for the eagle. And thus the adventure for our mutual storyline, kinda, for our main protagonists begins. So Servilia gets her long-expected letter from Caesar, and we see a very nice scene between master and slave. It really goes to show how slaves were so much more to their masters than mere servants. In some cases, those slaves closest to you almost felt like parents and a real moral support. In sort of an unofficial way, such slaves became part of the family. They spoke about this in the DVD extras, as I recall, saying how masters would sometimes mourn the death of their slaves as if they'd lost a relative or something. So Servilia is unhappy about Caesar's choice of words. She's not satisfied with, quote, the great affection he sends to her. And then her slave convinces her that coming from a tough soldier long at war, these words are probably much more than what he gifts his actual wife with. and I should probably break it off again because I don't really like these half-hour long videos. Takes a crap load of time to render, and it makes me want to smash my computer. So that was part 2 of episode 1 of Rome. Expect part 3 in the near future. For Holy Retardation Blog and HBO Rome podcast, this is Chris.